Okay, so this is video 2. I really like this. This is on page, let me just check, page 29. This is a diagram of responsibility. So a lot of what I spoke about now is graphically represented here. So the form, like the Road to Health card, is for all learners and it's filled in by health professionals. Then we have things like what is the SNA 1, what is the SNA 2, and SNA 3, and so on and so on. So this is a very nice document for you to have, even print it out and keep it for yourself until you learn it, because it does give you an idea of what exactly the documents are that should be considered and that you should know. Chapter 7 looks at the roles, functions, and responsibilities of various stakeholders. It tells you what is the school-based support team supposed to do. So it guides you. So when you start your own school-based support team, it tells you exactly what the role is of the team and what they can be expected to do. It also talks about the composition of the school-based support team, who should be in that team. It's a really great outline of exactly what needs to be done in the role of the schools based support team in the SIAS process. We also look at the external sources of support, so the Department of Health, for example, the Department of Social Development, and then and then so it breaks down all of these sources of support and what kind of support they can provide. So look at all of this. It's going to be very helpful for you. The role of teachers and practitioners, the role of the school governing body, the role of the district-based support team. A lot of you have asked me about this. This talks to you about the role of the district-based support team, and then the role of the parents and caregivers. And importantly as well, because we want our children to feel like they are part of the process. We don't want them to feel like they are made to feel in a medical model where they are deficient, there's something wrong with them, but they have some agency in this process. They need to feel the confidence that they also know what works for them. They also know what is important. And something that I always feel that is very important is to obtain consent. Obtain informed consent for children. Parents give consent, but they give informed consent because we're informing them about what is happening. And children who are underage, they give assent. They assent to what is happening, so they agree. But the parents obviously are their legal guardians, so they give consent. But always involve the learners. Don't do things and they confuse. I don't know if you this happened to you when you were a child, but people made decisions for you, or they said just do it because, and then you make up your own story about what is going on, and it might not necessarily be the reason that this thing is happening or the reason that things happen in this way. So be careful of this. Involve them, make them feel like they're part of it. Don't make them feel like they are victims or they are just have to go with the flow and they just have to listen, but rather involve them so they can also feel like, you know what I say is important and I also have some rights over my own life. Okay, so this is the important bit because it's going to be part of what you're going to present in your assessment. But the SIAS process for individual learners. Let's look at it. So A talks about admission. So we spoke about this. Remember, I went through all of this when we spoke, but now it's in an infograph. So admission, completion of vulnerability assessment, and learner profile. So if there is no risk, we go down here. No risk or concerns identified. No additional support is required at this stage. You can see the arrow doesn't go anywhere. C, if it's at-risk learners identified. But remember, these learners mustn't be ignored. We must still obviously focus on them, make sure that they're doing okay. But so it'll go down here, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So at-risk learners identified. So if you identify learners who are at risk, you refer to the SBST, which recommends action to be taken. So D, support needs are not clear, investigate further, and support needs are clear, support given, monitored, and reviewed. Then we go into F here. The teacher observes, conducts classroom management, reads learner profile, screens, and conducts learner and parent interviews to inform the lesson plan. Because remember, your lesson plans aren't just something out of the air. You need to know who you're working with before you can create a lesson plan. So these two also, the E will also come. I know it's very confusing, but we're going to go through all of them in alphabetical order, and then you'll make sense of it thereafter. Then support successful, no additional support required at this stage. So it kind of ends there. But if support is still required, we're going to go on to the next level. So no concern identified, no additional support required at this stage, or barrier identified, parent and learner consulted, individual support plan, which is the ISP, support strategy drawn up and implemented, may include referral to social services, which we spoke about earlier, what kind of social services, the clinic or the social development, etc., or request for assistance from the LSE or counselor. Okay. Then J, support successful, no additional support required at this stage. Can you see on the one side, you can, even if the learner is identified here, at some points it's successful, so you can stop. But if you don't stop, you will, if it's not successful, it's ineffective, then you do stop, okay? The support is unsuccessful, the teacher requests assistance from the SPST. So remember that stage that we spoke about in the previous video? This is what we're going through here. Then the SPST examines the case. They recommend further assessment which is conducted and or support which is given, monitored and reviewed. Remember that review date? And then the parent and learner is in liaison with obviously the SPST and the teachers. Then support is successful. So after this, if support is successful, no additional support is required at this stage, but we always monitor our learners. Or support is unsuccessful, so the SPST requests assistance from the CBST. So the CBST obviously is the circuit-based support team. I hope you got that right because we didn't speak about it earlier. So the CBST reviews this and what the SBST did, which is a school-based support team action. They review the action and draws up their own action and recommends that support access at institutional level or refers to the DBST, which is the district-based support team for implementation. But you must get the parents' consent. If you don't get parental consent, what do? So if you said you stop, you are correct. You do stop because the parents can be the ones to say, no, you cannot do this. You explain to the parents why they must do it. You give them the explanation, you give them the information. But if they say no, you have to create a letter and put it in the child's file to say the parent has asked or the parent has said that no further or no additional methods or processes need to take place. And you need to respect the parent's decision in that way. Okay, but that letter needs to happen. So if support is successful, no additional support required. If support is unsuccessful, the CBST, which is a circuit-based support team because the district works in circuits, they make recommendations to the DBST for outplacement of strategic planning. Then the DBST examines. They approves with conditions or recommends different support which is given, and they monitor and review, and the parent and the child stays in liaison with all of these teams. So that infograph is the overview. Now we're going to get a little bit into the nitty-gritty. So the form's contents. The assessment and intervention by teachers, which is your SNA 1 in the areas concerned, the strengths and needs of the learner, for example, so communication, what is the learning like, the behavior and social competence, because it's important to see, because children, for example, on the autism spectrum, they have difficulties in social interactions and communication and learning. So you need to be aware of these things. What are their strengths and what are the areas of need? Look at their health and wellness and personal care, because personal care can also be an indication of neglect. Classroom, what is the school environment, the family, home and community situation. The teacher intervention and support, so curriculum interventions, how did you provide support and interventions at a curriculum level? So have you differentiated curriculum content? Have you given different types of assessment to different learners? Have you modified assessment? Teaching methods, have you modified your teaching methods? And other interventions like in the learning environment, in the physical environment was modified. So for a child in a wheelchair, for example, was the physical environment changed and adapted to allow them easy access? And then that's just an example. And then a log of parent or legal caregiver learner consultations. You must keep a note of all the meetings that you have. It's important because they will be reviewed. Then your SNA 2. Assessment and intervention by school-based support team. Identification of barriers experienced and the interventions provided by the teacher, because you're going to review the SNA 1. Then the SPST. They look at the individual support plan and they put together individual support plan. That is what ISP stands for. Then the school-based support team also requests for assistance from a district-based support team, and they use form DBE 120, which we'll look at. If you want support from a district-based support team, you use DBE 120, and this is how you request support from a DBST if the ISP and if the other interventions are not working. Then the SNA 3 assessment and intervention by the district-based support team, the identification of barriers experienced by the learner and the interventions provided by the SPST and of course by the teacher as well. So what the district-based support team will look at the guidelines for support, then they will table to rate level of support, so what kind of support has been provided. They look at the checklist to help determine the decisions on support provided for the learner. So we're going to be looking at the next and the next one is request by the parent or caregiver for placement or transfer of learner to a resource center or special school and access a high-level specialized support program. They will fill in the form DBE 123A, that is how a parent can request support. Annexure A2 is the application by the district based supporting for placement of the learner, and that will be the form DBE 123B. And Annexure B is application by the SPST or the DBST for concession, exemption, or endorsed in CS. They'll fill in the form DBE 124. Then in Annexure C, we'll look at the curriculum differentiation schedule, which will fill in form DBE 125. And then in Annexure D, health and disability assessment form, and that will be form DBE 126. The checklist of forms completed are very important. So we'll check, the DBST will check, have you filled in the learner profile? So remember, if you don't fill out these forms at the school level and there's a audit done, but more importantly, the child is suffering and these forms are checked and you haven't filled them out, you as a teacher will be liable. Even though it is a very intense program, you will still be liable for not filling in the learner profile, for example. They'll also check if the SNA 1 assessment and intervention by the teacher has been done. SNA 2 has the assessment and intervention by the SPST been done, and all documents and meetings, sorry to use the word like, have they been filled in and completed, and is there a record of these meetings? So remember, always have someone taking minutes in a meeting and put it in a file. The individual support plan, is that in place? And then they will look at all the rest of these forms which have been filled in and which have been submitted. So some of you may have seen this, some of you may have not, or some of you have not. This is the learner profile. It is confidential when it's completed. This is what the document looks like. So it's a legal document, and information may not be removed no matter what. It must be made available by the principal of the school from which the learner has been transferred once the transfer document has been issued. So if a child goes from one school to another, their learner profile goes with them. So it must go to the principal of the next school where the learner is being moved to. It should be posted or personally and officially handed over to the receiving principal, and not, importantly, it must not be given to the learner's parents or guardians of the learner, because it is confidential. And although it is their child, information that is in here may be of a nature that of what the teacher has done, or maybe information that might be hurtful to the child and the child will get access to. Obviously, you don't put things in here that is hurtful to a child, but for example, if you do say the child is not performing at the level of other learners, that might be difficult for a child to read. So please be careful of what you put in here. The profile must be completed in print and at least annually by the registered teacher. No topics may be used. When information is included in the area marked by the asterisk, the teacher should complete the support needs assessment form of the strategy of screening, identification, assessment, and support. So when there's an asterisk, you must fill in these forms. Okay. So we're gonna I thought we'd get to the infograph in this video, but we haven't. So it'll probably be in the next or the next, who knows. So this is just a look at what the learner profile looks like. And of course, this is the second part of the document. I want to pause here and say that if the school that you are at does not have anybody that has been trained in using this document, you need to seek training. You need to go to the district office or the circuit manager and say, we need training in this, because saying that you don't know is not going to be an excuse, if I can use it like that, for a child not being assessed correctly and supported correctly. So if you do not have training, if you feel that you need training, you need to access that training. You need to ask for the training. You cannot say, I didn't know. You as a teacher and as a school, you have to find ways to get training, and the district is very open to providing this training. They did a lot of training on this already, but more is available if you need it. Also, I know that independent schools and private schools work a little bit differently. They don't necessarily follow this, but they do have their own procedures in place. But also they need to understand that if learners do need support, there needs to be methods and processes to be followed to allow the support to be provided for that child. Okay, and this is more of the document. This is the next part. You can see it's areas as needs ongoing support, areas needed ongoing support, and all of this information needs to be filled in. So as you can see, lots of information about the learner, what exactly the learner is going through. What are the achievements? What is the achievements we talk about? What is their strengths? Talk about anything and everything. I'll continue in the next video.